All right. Okay, Boker Tov, everybody. Okay, so we continue with Yerushalmi. We're going to now be Perek Aleph Halacha Bet in Yerushalmi. We a little bit should have done this yesterday, but I wasn't here, so we're going to skip the Mishnah. We don't have to read the Mishnah. We're going to pick up in the printed Yerushalmi here on Gimel Bet, and you'll see the beginning of this will parallel what we ended yesterday with, and then we will begin, and then the rest of it will parallel what we're going to do today in the Bavli. So it picks up here in the Gemara on Gimel Bet in Yerushalmi, Perek Aleph Halacha Bet. Okay, so it just dealt with the whole issue about the debate in the Mishnah about whether Makos is with 3 or with 23, and then the whole issue about Kiddush HaChodesh and Ibur HaChodesh. So it says the following. Rabbi Yavo asked, Makos Besin Shlosha. Now, this is funny that says he asked because it's more as an explanation. Maybe he was saying, is this the right explanation? But whatever. Here's the reason of the opinion that you need 23 for Makos. Because sometimes the lashes lead to the person dying. And then effectively you've judged Dinei Nefashos. Or another way of saying it is that you have to make sure that the lashes don't lead to that. You have to give him only the right amount of lashes that he can survive. And therefore there's always an element of Dinei Nefashos. So this was something we saw in the Bavli as well, that Malkus is a type of a Dinei Nefashos, and whether it meant that it might accidentally lead to death or it was a substitute of a death punishment. Here the Yerushalmi is highlighting the explanation that it might accidentally lead to death. It was a machlokas rishonim how to read that in the Bavli. Okay, now we get to the issue of going 3, 5, and 7 of a based din, like starting with 3, going to 5, going to 7, when they do the Ibur Shana, when they add the extra month. So Bar Kapara Shama Kulhan Mehada. He learned this gradation from the following verse. 3 words. Yarasham 5 words. You debated in 5. You conclude in 7. So we saw that, and that's true. I mean, obviously, it's just like a remez. Anyway, here it's actually longer than the Bavli. The Bavli just say Keneged Birchas Kohanim. Here it actually spells it out. Okay, 3, 5, and 7. Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi Shamakulon Me'adah learned it all from the following pasuk. This is when they were going into exile, and Nebuchadnezzar took, actually very appropriate for the period right now. Anyway, the 3 guardians of the of the castle, or whatever Shomrei Hasaf means. Mikan shematchilim b'shlosha 3. V'chamisha nashim me'roi pnei hamelech. Mikan shenosim nosim v'chamisha. You deliberate with 5. V'shiva nashim me'roi pnei hamelech. That's a different sort of version of the event in Yirmiyahu. The same event is told at the end of Malachim, the exile and the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, and at the end of Yirmiyahu. And there are some, in some ways the events there's a strong overlap, but some areas of inconsistency. So here one says 5 and one says 7. We're using both of them, 3, 5, and 7. Now you might remember that when the Bavli also said Roei Pnei HaMelech and so on, Rashi said that meant with Esther and whatever, and Tosfos says that's crazy. Why should we do our deliberations of Ibur Shana connected the non-Jewish court system? So Tosfos says, what we really mean is the Jewish sort of kingly court had 3, 5, and 7, and he quotes these psukim, and he says, and by the way, that's the same one. That's what it says in the Yerushalmi. So, again, it's interesting when the Bavli is a little bit unclear and there's a debate of the Rishonim and it's clarified by Yerushalmi. I do want to say something in terms of what this is about. Birchos Kohanim, as Michael sort of says, is a little generic. I mean, you could say that the idea of Birchos Kohanim, right, 3, 5, and 7 is like the sense of bracha and increase. And, so you're changing, and so if you're assessing the year, even though you're just doing it to calculate and to add a month, but you're also expanding the year and increasing the year, and it's maybe symbolic of a year of blessing. But more significantly, I think, is this drasha, which is the one that dominates more, which is the idea that this shows a sense of, of sovereignty and kingship. Tachsisei Malchus, I think sort of Rashi says, or someone says, the sort of the apparatus of the kingship. And, because the idea of controlling your calendar is very important, that sense of who are the ones that are sitting at the head of the, of the religion are the ones that control the calendar. The calendar defines the unified practice of the religion. The way in which the various sects broke off of, Judaism had a lot to do, or traditional Judaism or rabbinic Judaism, whatever. They have a a different calendar. You have a different calendar. You're celebrating a different religion. So this was very important in terms of that sense. And, the more that you have that sovereignty, that self-governance, right, the more you're sort of in control. Like let's face it, in the United States, our lives are arranged around the American the secular calendar. And of course, every now and then, wait, what day is it in, what month are we in? Whatever. It's like, what's his name once said, who was it? Tolushkin. He says, you notice how like the holidays never come on time. People always say, oh, the holidays are very early this year. Oh, the holidays are late this year. Like they're never on time. Everything. Anyway, so what organizes our lives, there was once a whole an article many years ago in Time magazine about interfaith families, and it said, it was talking about like, do they celebrate Hanukkah or Christmas? So it said, although Christmas occurs the same time every year, December 25th, Hanukkah sometimes it occurs in early December, sometimes late December, sometimes January. Anyway, the next edition, somebody wrote in a letter and said, oh, you goyim, you can't get anything straight. It says Hanukkah is always the same time, right? The 25th of Kislev, but who can figure out Christmas? Sometimes beginning of Kislev, sometimes the end of Kislev. So, anyway, so the point is that the calendar is like defines like how is your whole life organized, and the sense of malchus and sovereignty, and who's leading your society and who's leading so anyway, so the idea that we're borrowing that model to symbolize sort of the power and the way in which the Beis Din decides the calendar, I think is very significant, and it's going to tie into things that we've seen and we're going to see about the sense about the Nasi and Rebbe Gamliel, and you need to be invited in order to participate in the Kiddush HaChodesh and all those types of things, that it was really a very sort of central sort of significance and of religious leadership. Yes.
The Seleucid Empire and then later Julius Caesar, one of the ways that they established authority was to create all new calendars.
There you go.
And First Maccabees, they give their dates according to the Seleucid calendar.
Right. Okay. There you go. Exactly.
So we were already assimilated.
Exactly. Okay. So, I'm Rabbi Yonasan. Actually, this verse serves as the basis not just for Ibor Shana, but it serves as the basis for the Sanhedrin Gedola in general. So now it's not specifically about calendar; it's just using this verse to get the numbers of the head Beis Din of 70. How do you get that? So again, by the pasuk in Yirmiyahu, Sarya Kohen Arosh Sefanya Kohen Harei Shnayim, that's 2. V'shiva Nashim Yera Pnei HaMelech Harei Tisha, that's 9. V'shishim Ish Me'am Haaretz Harei Shivim Chasar Achas, that's, so if you're keeping track, that's 69. Mina'ir Saris Echad, and one Saris, one eunuch, Harei Shivim, that's 70. Now that's the opinion that if Sanhedrin was 70, but some learn out from here 71.
So we learn from the Alma Aretz about
what can I tell you? So you're quoting different parts of the psukim, right? The psukim mention 2 people, and then it says the 3 Shomrei Hasaf, guardians of the whatever, the gate, I don't know. Anyway, whatever Shomrei Hasaf are. Anyway, so one verse quoted the 2 and it ignored the 3, and this version quotes the 3 and ignores the 2. So different ways of getting to the number we want. Okay. Lama karu saris. Now, if this is really about being on a Beis Din, why you call the saris a eunuch? That's not a very it's sort of a status-laden position. So, shemisaris et halacha. Let's say that's also a funny thing. Misaris, what he emasculates the halacha. He turns upside down the halacha, like so. The one of the Mefarshim here says. What?
Rashi said a lot of this time, like Sareis Amirkov.
Right. So what does it mean? He reverses the halacha. That's a good thing. So I mean, one of the Mefarshim here says something. Somehow he's which means that he's very expert at the halach. He's able to, move things around or deliberate on things. It's still not exactly clear how they managed to make that into a positive phrase. Anyway, all right. So the version in Malachim says 5, and the version in Yirmiyahu says 7. Because you had 5 who were part of the court, but 2 extra who were the scribes. All right. Anyway, so that's how we get it to talk about the general, another basis for this number of 70, not specifically about Kiddush HaChodesh, but if you want to say sort of like replacing political authority. Oh, welcome back. Replacing political authority of the king with religious authority of the Beis Din is also what's sort of being done by these parallels. But going back to the focus on Kiddush HaChodesh, let's continue. This is what the Gemara, the Bavli asked. Why does it say Iber HaChodesh is with 3? It's really Kiddush HaChodesh. Okay, so it just sort of makes that comment, without again elaborating on it. Some say it's trying to switch the girsa, that the girsa is not Iber HaChodesh, which is what you do on day 31. At that stage, you don't need a Beis Din anymore. It's saying the Kiddush HaChodesh, which is what you do on day 30. Okay, Shmuel Amar, Ein Kiddush HaChodesh Pachos Mi'asara. So the 357 again is about the Ibor Shana, but we're jumping a little bit back and forth between the Ibor Shana, adding the extra month, and the Kiddush HaChodesh. So Shmuel says when we do Kiddush HaChodesh, we do it with 10. Is he disagreeing with the Mishnah? Is he saying technically it's 3, but in practice, the same way 3, 5, and 7, whatever, we want to get a bigger deal made of it, because 10 is not the size of a Beis Din. 10 is the size of to publicize it. Okay, so he says we need 10, and now so it seems like it's not a technical Beis Din size, but we want to publicize the event. Chaverim ma'uli kanes l'kiddush hachodesh. Can chaverim are like colleagues, but they're not actually of the Beis Din itself. They're more like students or clerks or whatever. They're can they come in? Because now here gets the idea. I'm sure you've heard the phrase like sod ha'ibur, right? The secret of the calculation of the year. So here, more than other places, there's an idea. Well, on the one hand, there's an idea of like this weighty authority. We compared it to the whole thing about, like I said, about the kingly court and so on. So maybe it's like by invitation only. But there's also somehow this sense of like that it's secret. Figuring out like exactly, because they came up, if you remember in Rosh Hashanah, they had pictures of the moon. Did it look like this? Did it look like that? You needed all this knowledge for Kiddush HaChodesh, for Ibor HaChodesh. What are the various factors? Obviously, you could imagine farmers and different people might have tried to exert certain influence over whether to make an Ibor Shana or not, and it required this very esoteric knowledge. So the phrase here, are you allowed to enter in? Partly it could be a question of like, are you allowed to be part of the group because it's a very status-laden group? Like you might be, admission only by invitation. So maybe it has to do with that status, but it also, I think, evokes some of that sense of secrecy. Yes, Rabbi.
So I love secrets, but doesn't the word sod simply mean a group of people, as in sod chachamim and nivonim?
Yeah, but I don't know, sod ha'ibur.
The group of people, the convention of people.
I don't know. It's possible, right? It's possible. It's an interesting thought. Yes, it's an interesting thought. I'd have to see, because soda would normally. Okay, my recollection is that usage is about the knowledge of how to make Kiddush, the knowledge of the calculation. But anyway, okay, moving on. So it says, yeah.
Connection between when we bless the new moon and we say Kol Chaverim.
Yeah, so I'm going to get to that, by the way. Okay, so Chaverim Ma'ali Kanis Kiddush HaChodesh. I'm Rabbi Oshaya, Chaver Havina. I was a Chaver. The Ali Rabbi Shmuel bar Rav Yitzchak l'Kiddush HaChodesh, and he brought me into the convocation to do the Kiddush HaChodesh. The Leina, that's a conjunction. The Leis Ana Yada, and I don't know. Isalikis miminyana inlo. If I counted towards the right number or not, I know I came up even though I was a count. What?
Want to see how many people?
Wow, so that's what Gemara says. Pshita delos solid. Of course, you didn't count. I mean, you could know if you counted or not. Were you one of the, however the number is? If it's 3, if it's 10, maybe we're going by Shmuel that you need 10. But anyway, just count. See if you counted or not. See if you were part of the minimum number. So the Gemara says no. It must be that obviously he didn't count. There was the right number without him. The question was, why didn't he count? That was what he didn't know. So Lama begin to have a chasne. Did he not count as part of the group because he was the son-in-law, okay, of the one who invited him in? So he knew he didn't count, but he didn't know why he didn't count. Did he not count because I was a relative, or did I not count because I was a chaver and I wasn't one of the actual, more senior rabbis? So now, what exactly is this status that you need? That's not chaver. Who identifies who's on the Beis Din anyway for the Kiddush HaChodesh? Not any 3 people can get together and say they're going to do Kiddush HaChodesh. Okay, but here you're seeing that it needs this idea of invitation and of this very heightened status. status to be for Kiddush HaChodesh. Hold on. I'm Rabbi Kahana, Chaver Havina. I was a Chaver. La'ili Rabbi Tanchum Bar Chia Kiddush HaChodesh. Rabbi Tanchum Bar Chia invited me to come and be part of the Kiddush HaChodesh. V'salikis minyana, and I counted as part of the number. Again, what's the number? The only number we have for Kiddush HaChodesh is 3. So
These
I
are
mean,
Amoraim doing Kiddush
five or
HaChodesh?
seven.
what?
These
Maybe.
are Amoraim doing Kiddush HaChodesh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They can till Zohar Sheni. Yeah, they continue till exactly for way in the Amoraic period. Hada Amra, this teaches you shechavim nisnasim the Kiddush HaChodesh. So now we've concluded it based on a story. Now that's Kiddush HaChodesh. Chaverimo likanes leibor shana. How about for the Ibor Shana, which is going back to the whole 3, 5, and 7? And can they be part of that group? Okay, and that group is the one that we've more emphasized the whole idea of status, right? Because this whole thing before of the comparison to the kingly court. So can they enter in, which presumably not only means can they be present? Well, we'll see. A, can they be present? B, can they count? Okay, let's learn it from the following. The story of Gamliel said, Yakruni Shiva Zakenim Aliyah V'nichnesu Shmona. So I gather unto me, call before me 7 elders, okay, that they should come up to the attic, the second story, and we're going to do Kiddush HaChodesh. So here's Rabbi Gamliel the Nasi. He's extending a special presidential invitation, okay, and you have to have your presidential invite to come to the White House there, okay, and 7, but 8 entered in. Now, by the way, it's also interesting. That sounds like 7 plus the Nasi. So was he not part? He was the convener, but not actually part of the Beis Din. Anyway, so 8 entered in. She was a Shmona. Amar mihu shenichnas shelo b'reshus. Who's here without permission? Amar Shmuel HaKatan, who is not the Amor Shmuel, Atana Shmuel HaKatan, stood up. Al Raglav, Amar Ani Alisi Shelo b'reshus. That would be me. I wasn't coming to try to be part of this Ibor HaChodesh. I understand that that's only by invitation only, but I had to ask you some question about, like, can I use my, deodorant on Shabbos or something? So that's why I came in. So Rabbi Gamliel said to him, that's the way it sounds like. Rashi on this parallel story of the Bavli says, I wanted to understand how Kiddush HaChodesh is done. Okay, but it doesn't sound like that. It didn't sound like I wanted to just observe how this was done. Anyway, Rabbi Gamliel said to him, by Eldad and Medad, everybody knew they were the 2. Amarti ata echad mehem, you are one of them. Now, what does that line mean? That's very cryptic. Eldad and Medad, everyone knew they were the 2. I know that you're one of them. You're part of Eldad and Medad. So what it seems like, and this is based on, again, I wasn't here yesterday, so I'm losing track. Did you do this story yet in the Bavli yesterday? No. Okay, we're coming up to today. So the story comes up in the Bavli, and the Bavli explains a little bit more, and it says Shmuel was not the extra guy. Somebody else was the extra guy. Okay, but Gamliel didn't say which were the 7 to invite, then he would have known who was the extra guy. He told his attendant to call 7. 7, I guess it was assumed to understand, of the appropriate status. And so Rabbi Gamliel didn't know which was the one that wasn't called. So Shmuel, to cover up for the innocent guy, not the innocent, the guilty guy, but he didn't want him to be embarrassed. This is the way the Bavli explains the story. He took the blame himself. So with that background, you actually, sometimes it's dangerous to explain too often the Mefarshim explain the Bavli through the lens, the Yerushalmi through the lens of the Bavli, and they're not sort of recognizing what the Yerushalmi is saying. But here it actually seems like that's the good shot, because the Eldad who made that story, according to, if you read Rashi, which on the Psukim, which is a classic rabbinic explanation, Eldad who made that stayed in the camp. The 70 went over. It says, "V'hema baksuvim v'lo yatsu ha'ohala." So what does that mean? So Rashi says the way they did it is if you needed 70 elders, that's 6 from each tribe, but that's 72. So there were 70, so he put 72 lots. 70 of them said, whatever, Zaken, whatever. 2 were blank, and everybody drew lots. And Eldad and Medad, their lots said Zaken. But they saw that the other 70 people were going. 2 people who got the lots with the blanks had decided they were going to go anyway. So they chose on their own to stay back so as to not embarrass the 2 who were going, who shouldn't have been going. And that's why they had this Ruach HaKodesh, because they were part of the chosen. So what he's saying here actually is everybody knew, Eldad who made that, Hakol Yodim Sheshnayim, everybody knew they were the 2 that actually were chosen. but nevertheless, they decided to stay back. You're like one of them. I know you were one of the guys that was chosen, and you're doing the nice thing here and pretending that you were the expert guy and that you were the one who's here that shouldn't be. Okay? But that's going to be in the Bavli, not in the Yerushalmi. Okay? Anyway, Vafilu came. Even though he said to Shmuel this nice stuff, and Shmuel presumably belonged there, Lo Ivru Bahu Yoma, they did not do it on that day. Okay?
Why? One of these Zakanim shouldn't have been there?
Yes, because it seems like it's not just a question of you need to be invited to count as the number, but it does seem that it has this idea that it has to be only the people invited are allowed to be present. Okay, so it does have this greater idea of, if you would, exclusivity or secrecy. So it's not just you can't count if you weren't invited. We can't do it if a non-invited person is present.
So does that mean that that was a conscious decision, or it just worked out that way?
No, it seems very conscious. He sort of distracted them, changed the subject, talking about Torah. They said, oh, you came to learn halacha. So they spent the whole rest of the day talking about whether you could use deodorant on Shabbos. Then they decided, they made it the next day. So it was a very conscious decision. So again, here you have the idea not just whether you can count if you're not invited, but whether you're allowed to be there, whether we're allowed to continue with the proceedings. So it's this very interesting thing about this very, you can understand, like this very, almost like the word Rashi used before, or whatever, taksise, malchus, like there's a lot of procedure around it, status around it, special invitation, mystery almost, and so on. Okay, now it says like this, Tani, we talk, Sanhedrin sharos ha'horeg. Now let's say a Sanhedrin saw somebody kill someone. This is a classic issue of Eid Na'aseh. So is Tani Shnayim Na'asim Eidim will be Eidim B'fnei Hashar. So some teach that two of the Sanhedrin can serve as Eidim and the rest serve as Sanhedrin. Just because you saw it doesn't invalidate you. It doesn't let you be an Eid and a Dayan at the same time, but it doesn't invalidate you. So the rest can remain Dayanim and two can break off and become Eidim. Okay? Everybody has to be Eidim, and you have to go find another Beis Din, because once you saw it, you are not allowed to be a Dayan, even if you don't testify. Even just do it passively, you continue to be a Dayan. The same way it's true here, it's also true by the new moon, and this is something that comes up mostly. This is mostly a sugya from the beginning of the second paragraph of Rosh Hashanah, which starts with the idea that if a Beis Din saw the new moon, can they just immediately say Mekudesh Mekudesh, or do they have to say, no, some of you serve as Eidim, the rest of us will serve as Dayanim? So it's this old classic question of Eid Na'aseh Dayan. Okay, now the Gemara asks, why not just have one person get up, be an aid, and then he'll take his place back, and another person will get up and he'll be an aid and he'll take his place back? So Shanihi Shein Ha'id Na'aseh Dayan, meaning why is this necessary to seek out another Beis Din? And it says, yeah, because if you serve as an aid, you can't be a Dayan on the same thing you served as an aid. Right, the way the Rishonim articulate this is Eid HaMeid is Eino Na'aseh Dayan. Once you've testified, you cannot go ahead and be a Dayan on the same case you testified. And the question is, can Eid HaRoeh be Na'aseh Dayan? If you saw the event but you didn't testify, can you remain on the Beis Din? And that was exactly what was being debated. Now, Rav Huna Yada Sahadu, Rav Huna knew testimony, L'chad Barnat, for a certain person, also by Nidin Kamei V'Kafarbe. So this person came in front of Rav Huna, and he was denying that he, somebody said, Charlie, you owe me $1,000. Charlie said, no, I didn't. And the case was before me. And I happen to know that Charlie owed the guy $1,000. Okay, but here I am, I'm the judge. And so formally, there's no testimony against Charlie. I just know it from my own direct experience. Okay, so I'm going to Shmuel Bar Rav Yitzchak. The Rav Huna Inish Rabbat Kaverbe. So the Rav Shmuel Yitzchak said to Charlie here, hey Charlie, because you know that Rav Huna is a great person, you think that you can deny in front of him because you think that he won't step down from being a judge, and he won't go to serve as a witness against you. And if he won't step down from being a judge, he can't use, according to this opinion, his own knowledge in his judging, because nobody's presented, no aide has presented the testimony that he himself is aware of. So Ma'u Gezuv Yasud Alech Kumi based in Chorim. It says, but what if Rav Huna decides that no, he's going to step down from being judge and he's going to testify against you? He doesn't want you to get away with that. So the Gemara says, Amalei Rav Huna v'Avdin Kain. So Rav Huna said, oh, am I allowed to do that? Am I allowed actually to, this gets to also the case of when can a judge step away from a case?
Yeah, like what they say, Bala doing.
Exactly. Now, Bala doing, you can't sort of say, you can't not do it because you're afraid of the guy. You can't say pshara. But here, he wants to step down in order to be able to serve as a witness. So Amalei yes, you're allowed to step down now and to serve as a witness. For sure, Rav Huna Garme Minahudina. So Rav Huna exempted himself from dealing with that case. He recused himself. The Azavasi Kuma Basin Charid, and he went in front of another basin and testified against Charlie. Charlie, sorry, buddy, didn't get away with it. Okay. Anyway, that was a bit of a digression of Eid Nasa Dayan, but fascinating. Yes.
Sorry, the language seems to be like, oh, can you step down? Yeah, but do you have to step
Right, so
down?
it doesn't sound like you have to. That is correct. It sounds like if you're the judge, of course, then that feels funny that you're judging a case that you have relevant information that you're not technically allowed to bring into your decision. Right, so you would think that you're supposed to, right, not just you're allowed to. It's a good point. Okay, Tani Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. So now we've got a bright. So back to Kiddush HaChodesh. The Kiddush HaChodesh Shnaza 50 Shana. Shani Matam Mekadesh V'lo Chadashim. Only by adding a year do you have a special ritual of saying Mekudesh, but not by the Kiddush HaChodesh. There of course, you still need a basin to decide is today Rosh Chodesh or tomorrow. But partly the reason this is the position that you never do Kiddush HaChodesh. You might say, okay, we've determined it's today, but you don't, or we determined it's tomorrow, but you don't do an act Mekudesh, which is what we're familiar with in terms of the Mishnayot. And part of the reason is because it's just an astronomical event, right? Now, of course, even if you get it off, like even if the month was yesterday and you waited a day, or the month wasn't and you did it today, that's part of the Chiddush that, even if you make a mistake in Maseches Rosh Hashanah, it still works. So yes, you do have a power more than just identifying the astronomical event, but still much more than adding an extra month to a year. Adding an extra month to a year is not about a particular astronomical event. You are sort of very much the Beis Din's in power, is using their power to add that month. So he's saying that has a special ritual of being Mekadesh and adding the extra month to the year. But doing Kiddush HaChodesh, we announce maybe what day we've identified, but it's not this ritual of Kiddush HaChodesh. Yeah.
But there is an astronomical event, which is the
Right. I understand. It's when the solar and the lunar calendar get out of whack. That is correct. Okay. But it's not a specific one. Okay. V'lo chadashim. V'hatanina on Rosh Basin Amar Mekudesh. 20 minutes. The Mishnah says the Rosh Basin says Mekudesh. No. Ma'u Mekudesh Mekuyam. Again, we're Mekayim. We're establishing what is the reality that it's a new moon, but we're not actually like creating, the sanctity. Sort of like when you make Kiddush on Friday night. It's already Shabbos. You might, so anyway. Okay, Tani. Kiddush HaChodesh matchilim migadol. When you do Kiddush HaChodesh, you start from the head of the Beis Din. Amar Reb Chia bar Ada, Masni Samar came. We can learn that from our Mishnah. Rosh Beis Din Amar Mekudesh. That the Rosh Beis Din says Mekudesh. Okay, Tani Li'ibur HaChodesh, or it should be Li'ibur HaShana, but that's when you're doing adding the extra month in the year, and there's really a whole series of deliberation, right? Because there's a lot of different factors to say, is it worth adding the month or not? In that case, Matchilim min atzad. You start from a not from the top of the group. You start from somebody who's a lower sort of position in the group, because you want to maybe have more open and honest deliberation. Amreb Zvida v'hein beisa delera lo nagin came. But this Beis Din below, meaning this Beis Din sort of like with here that we're dealing with, doesn't act that way. Okay, so it's very nice, and in theory you're supposed to start from the bottom, but when they do Kiddush HaChodesh, Ibur Hashana here, the head of the Beis Din starts the proceedings. Okay, Tani, Ibur HaChodesh matchilim min atzad, but it's right to say. I'm sorry, I've skipped a line. V'lo shama damar Chia bar Marya v'Reb Yonah bar Ba bar Chia b'shem Reb Yochanan liber hachodesh matchilim migadol liber hashana matchilim min atzad. How could it be that the Beis Din in our sort of generation doesn't act that way? It's didn't they hear the ruling that for Kiddush HaChodesh you start from the head of the Beis Din, for Ibur Shana you start from the bottom of the Beis Din? The Kvar Nichnas Reb Yochanan, and we have the case that Reb Yochanan went in via Katan Shebakulan, and he was the smallest member of the Beis Din, of the least status, and Reb Yochanan we're talking, and this was for a case of Ibur Shana. Amrullah, they said to him, Emor Harei Shana Mekudeshes Ibura. Tell us, no, we've decided we're going to do the Ibur Shana. You should say that the year is sanctified through its Ibur, through an extra month. Amar Harei Hashana Mekudeshes Bibura. So he said it. Now that's a little different. That's not like the deliberation. That's more the declaration. But anyway, still the point is that you give status to somebody lower on the Beis Din. You start with somebody lower. Amar Rabbi Yonasan. Now here's a side point. Re'ei Lashon Shelimeidnu Ben Hanafach. Listen to the preciseness of language that Rabbi Yochanan, who was called Ben Nafcha, I don't know if that was actually the name of his father, or it means like a blacksmith. Listen to the precision of the language that he used, what he taught us. Iwamar Ibura, had he just said the year sanctified with its Ibur, I would not have said it was a declarative statement. I would have said it was an informational statement. Oh, you know, the year, the solar year has extra days over the lunar year. The year is sanctified with a pregnancy, which is a funny way. Why do you say the word sanctified? But anyway, that's how I would have interpreted it. I wouldn't have said that he's adding an extra month to the year. So Ella, but rather than saying Bi'ibura, when he says Bi'ibura, it means that they added 30 days. How was Bi'ibura different than Bi'ibura? So the point is, you can't tell by the way the word is written, because the difference was whether he said it with a mapike or not. Did he say Hashana Mikudeshes Bi'ibura, which means like generically, every year there's always an ibur, there's always extra days that are part of the solar year. Or Hashana, this year Mikudeshes Bi'ibura, with its ibur. There's something special about this year that we've added a whole extra month. So it's funny, you can't replicate that in the writing, but he's basically saying by adding that mapike, he was showing us the importance of being precise in the language. Okay. Rabbi Yaakov bar Acha Yasa b'shem Yochanan liibur hochin achar haminoi lebeis havad. Hochin achar haminoi, excuse me. When it comes to the issue of Ibur, you go by the people that were appointed. So until now we've been talking about a chaver, but we also mentioned the story with Rabbi Gamliel that he said, wait, who wasn't called here? And here we're making that explicit. You can only be part of the Beis Din if you were appointed. Okay? When it comes to gathering, presumably means like a Beis Medrash, just learning Torah, you start from the person who is accustomed to start. It goes more by the norms. You don't need an explicit appointment. But when is it that you start that way? And this is interesting. This seems to be like a window into how they would have their Torah deliberations, their Torah learning. When you had it clear that everybody had their place to talk, and there was a people whose job it was to wrap things up. Okay, and that's how the sort of the yeshiva would work. Okay, that everybody would know when was their place to talk, and there was somebody whose job it was to start things, and somebody whose job it was to sort of say to call everything, to sort of sum everything up. To go in Rabbi Chanina Patach, Rabbi Chanina would open up the learning, and Rabbi Shlokish Chosmin, and they would conclude the learning. They would sort of say, okay, so here's the summation of everything we've been talking about. Rabbi Bar Batzada Patach, Rabbi Yossi Ravami Chosmin, Rabbi Chagai Patach, Rabbi Yonav Rabbi Yossi Chosmin. Very interesting. You have an idea of this very fixed structure, even in the case of like Torah learning, not just in the case of a Beis Din deliberation. Okay, now back to being appointed and being part of the Beis Din for Kiddush HaChodesh or Ibur Hashana. Rabbi Ba Bar Zavda Pata. I'm sorry, Rav Kahana Imni Kumi Rabbi Yaakov Bar Acha. Rabbi Imni was appointed, and prior to Rabbi Yaakov Bar Acha, he got an earlier appointment. Okay, and then so first they appointed Rabbi Kahana, and then they appointed Rabbi Yaakov Bar Acha. Now we said that when it comes to the Beis Din, you go by the order of appointment. I think I misstated before. It's not just you need to be appointed in order to be on the Beis Din, but like this discussion of the Beis Medrash, the order of who gets the right to speak first is a function of the order you were appointed. So if I first issue my invitation, first to Michael and then to David, so Michael gets the right to speak first and then David. Whereas in the Beis Medrash, everybody knows it's one person's job to begin, other people's job, what order they speak, other people's job to finish. But when it comes to the Beis Din, particularly of Kiddush HaChodesh, the order you get to speak is the order you were invited. Okay? So Rav Kahana was appointed before Rabbi Yaakov Bar Acha. Now remember, Rabbi Yaakov Bar Acha was the one who said it goes by the order you were appointed. The Al Rabbi Yaakov Bar Acha kamei manya liibura, and now Rabbi Yaakov Bar Acha was appointed second. He went in first in order to be counted for the ibur, in order to give his vote or whatever, to speak first. So he jumped ahead. So Amar. So now Rabbi Kahana said, "Achein mar dishmaita l'mekayim la." The teacher of this, that the author of this teaching, what is it? You're not practicing what you preach. You said you're supposed to, speak or whatever, or vote in the order you're appointed. That was your teaching. You were appointed second, and you felt you had to go ahead and speak and vote first. Okay, so the very author of the teaching is not practicing what he is teaching. And now we have another story with Rabbi Chia and Rav Kahana. These are different Rabbi Chia. Anyway, we have another story with Rav Kahana. Rabbi Chia Barva have a kohen matzli. Rav Chia Barva was davening. All Rav Kahana v'kamlei min chorei matzli. So Rav Kahana stood up and davened behind him. Okay, which you're allowed to do. You can't go in front of somebody who's davening. Chasa Rabbi Chia v'yosivlei. Now Rabbi Chia held himself back from finishing and stepping back or sitting down because he had somebody davening behind him. So he wasn't allowed to move into the space of the person davening behind him. So he had to wait until Rav Kahana, who came later, finished davening. Okay, begin to lo me'aver kumei. So he held back in order to not go in the pass in front of, enter into the space of Rav Kahana. Shari Rav Kahana marich b'tzlusei, and Rav Kahana basically allowed himself to go very long in his davening and was keeping this poor Rabbi Chia standing in his place. Kivan the chasa, once he finished, Amar Kain asun nagin latzurei Rabchon. This is what you do in order to cause anguish to your Rebbe, that you daven such a long davening and you kept me standing here. Amalei Rebbe, anami beis Eli ka'asim. He says, Rebbe, what can I do? I'm sorry I davened so long, but I come from the house of Eli. D'chsibahu imit kaper avon beit Eli b'zevachu mincha, that the sin of Beit Eli will not be atoned neither with sacrifice or with a meal offering. B'zevachu mincha mitkaper. It's not sacrifice with sacrifice. It is atoned with prayer, which is this very powerful thing that we're often taught this idea that neshama param satenu, that prayer is a substitute to sacrifice. But every now and then you get a rabbinic statement that prayer is better than sacrifice, which is like, that we're not living a sug bet, like a second level, it's also interesting in the context of the 9 days. How much do we feel that our Judaism is not, the same quality? We're only living some echo of what real fulfilled, Jewish living is, because we don't have a korbanot. That's the normal message of a neshama param satenu. And here, so actually, prayer is actually better, more effective than korbanot. V'tzali aluye. So because what? So because what?
Did the Bet Midrash still standing when this conversation?
No, this was after there was no Beis Hamikdash. Okay, so once Rabbi Chia heard Rav Kahana say this, and that he was from Beit Eli, and that he was, doing and afraid about this curse, so he prayed on his behalf. V'zaka l'meisiv, and Rav Kahana was merited to grow so old. Adis avdi tufrei sumkin kadad dekaka, until his fingernails turned red like a baby. I'm not sure what that has to became so old that his fingernails. I mean, maybe it's like both things. He got very, very old, and he had signs of being together with the signs of being very young. Okay, so that was a nice little end story. Maybe it was saying, even though whoever it was, Rabbi Chia jumped in front of Rav Kahana in the Beis Din, in the end, Rav Kahana got this whole blessing. Okay. Yes.
Somewhere else, there's a statement that that the descendants of Eli tended to have short lifespans.
Right. So of course. Yeah. That's the whole point of the curse. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's keep on going. I know we'll see if we get to the Bavli today. Okay. Reish Lakish. Now that we're Aktamin Lechad Sav Beibor. Okay. So here's a similar story. Reish Lakish, a certain elder, jumped in front of him. Okay, for the Ibra Hashana, similar to this previous story, somebody with this major status thing, clearly who gets to be appointed. And they basically kicked the guy out of the room, okay, because he jumped ahead. Okay, they pushed him out of the gate. Okay, now, which is interesting. Like the story before was they let somebody stay and they waited till the next day, but here they don't want to wait till the next day, so they pushed him out. Amar Kenya Bischaran. So then basically says, that was that was what you got. What was your comeuppance? Okay, that you should not have jumped ahead of me. Okay. Okay, fine. Velo Shami Demar Rav Krapista. Did you not hear what Rav Krapista said in B'Shem Rav Yochanan? Ma'isa Vibas Hashem Shlosha Roi Bakar. 1 minute. But b'diavad, you don't need, even though we have all this thing about being invited and only those people and big Talmidei Chachamim, but how about the fact that they say once they even did it based on 3 shepherds?
So any 3 shepherds can get together.
Well, that's obvious the question, right? What does it mean? So let's take a look. Chad Amar Bakir v'Lakish ba'Adar minitz. One said that that no, we've got a problem. The sort of the young crop and the old crop is sprouting forth in Adar, so we basically have to add an extra Adar in order to get the crops in order, because they're not sort of coming at the right time. The Chadam are Tur ba'Adar ba'arei yamut, an ox in Adar now will sort of at the beginning of the day it'll die from the heat in its flock or whatever, in its herd. Ubetul tinza yishalach mishchei, but in the shade of the fig tree it'll slough off its skin, which basically means, I don't know what it means. Somehow it's hot in the beginning of the day and it's cool in the middle of the day, and that was a sign that it was still not yet time for Pesach, and they had to add another month. And one said, "Kadom badar pach b'lauch yafik b'kiblei." It's early in the morning of Adar. If you take a sort of breath from your mouth, it'll come up against you. It's still too.
So you can see your breath.
You can still see your breath. Anyway, these were different ways they identified whether it was the right time or not. Now, of course, remember, Roei Bakar is normally like the classic example in the Mishnah about how you can have some ignoramus be on your beis din if you agree to it, is if you say like Neman alai shlosha Roei Bakar. But also, if you want to know if it's the time of the year to be adding an extra month or not, the good people to ask are the farmers and the shepherds, and they're giving very concrete descriptions, like we don't even fully understand. I translated it, but anyway, about how they can see. I can tell by the way the grass smells that it's still a little too early, right? That's the type of testimony they're giving. Okay, and because of that, Minin Chamyin Hadein Shata V'leis Bechad Mahon. Oh, I'm sorry. So B'nan Chamyin. So normally those are the things you need. I think I misstated a minute ago. Those are normally the things you need for us to like in Adar, and for at this time of year, those are normally the things you explain. And we've seen this year V'leis Bechad Mahon, and not one of those signs that are normally proper for this type of year were present right now. Okay, the Ibu Hashan al PM, and based on their testimony,
so that's not Ibu Hashan al
right? They weren't the beis din; they were giving testimony. Okay, so which is what the Gemara says. I'm a Rabbi, but still, remember, part of the whole idea of the Ibu Hashan is the deliberations. It's not just the final decision. So here they were at least part of the conversation, right? They were giving their testimony.
Witnesses.
Right. So that's what the Gemara says. I'm Rabbi Chelvo, based in his kimi mahen. Fine. They gave their testimony, but ultimately it was the final decision of the court. Now the Gemara has another question. 1 minute. Each one of them gave a different siman, but doesn't Rabbi Zera say that everybody has to agree that the reason to do the adding the year is for the same reason, and each one of them was giving a different reason? Well, because they were all saying that we haven't seen any one of these. Right, so they were all agreeing to that, which is basically what it says. Reish Lakish makbid al adam mils. I'm sorry, that's the line. No, kivan the ilun modin leilin. No, everybody was agreeing. They all said a different thing, but they were all agreeing that these are the signs, that the signs weren't present. The ilun leilin kimisha kulam modin mitzad echad. It's like they all agreed. Okay, so now it says Reish Lakish makbid al adam milsa. Now, even so, says the Gemara. Hold on, let me just see how they explain this. 1 minute. Oh, yeah. So if we can even have shepherds come in, why to testify? Why was Reish Lakish so upset that they had some old guy come in to to be part of it? Like they even allowed shepherds to come in. So the Gemara says, Chashash Amad Amar, he was concerned for what was said, Rabbi Linzer, Damar Rabbi Linzer, because Rabbi Linzer said, V'haisa al yadei hanaviim hachozim shav, b'sod ami lo yiyu. There you go, Rabbi Dov. So it was through the Nevi'im who gave false testimony, false visions in the secret or the convocation of my people. They were not. Ze ibur. This is the ibur. So basically, people that don't belong should not be part of the sod ha'iburs. Rabbi Dov says sod here means the convocation, but anyway, they should not be part of that gathering. Besod ami lo yu. How can these prophets give their, these false prophets. They were not in that. I still think it means secret. They weren't in the sort of secret, or they weren't in the convocation of my people. They were not written in the writings. That means that you have to be appointed. Okay, and also to do Kiddush Chodesh, it's not just being part of the convocation and being appointed and so on. It has to take place in Eretz Yisrael. And this is going to be very Ibur Shana. Well, yeah, presumably we're Ibur Shana, right? It has to take place in Eretz Yisrael. And this is an important question of the role of not only the Nasi, but of Eretz Yisrael very much. Again, this idea of sort of authority and of autonomy and so on. Okay, Rabbi Eliezer Katzolit, Hacha, when Rabbi Eliezer came here from Eretz Yisrael, from Bavel, okay, Amar Hagab Yechada, he said, that's one, okay, meaning I got one credit to my name here, I made Aliyah. Minuya, when he was appointed for the basin, presumably of like Kiddush HaChodesh or Ibur Shana, Amar Hagab Trey, now I've got two. Okay, I came to Eretz Yisrael, and I'm part of now this basin of Kiddush HaChodesh. So presumably so maybe when he was appointed he said two, and then when he actually participated in it, or participated in the Ibur Shana, Amar Hagabi plus, I've got three. It's sort of like, they say, what is it, if like you make three Shidduchim, you get Olam Haba, so it's like, okay, that's one, I got two to go, like, okay, so he's got his three big credits here. All right, Rabbi Bar Zavda, B'Shem Rav, Taimad Reb Lezer, Be Rabbi Tzadok, B'Shashor and based in, so now we're going back, now we're complete, that we're sort of done with this whole thing about appointment, and now we're going back to this question about Kiddush Hashanah, and do you need to do an act of Kiddush, and we're explaining the position of Rebbe Lezer Bar Tzadok, who says elsewhere that Basin doesn't do the Kiddush HaChodesh on day, when it's a Kiddush HaChodesh now, they only do it if it's a 29-day month that preceded, on day 30. They don't do it on day 31. What's the reason for this? Because when the top basin says the bottom base sees the bottom basin, when basin up in heaven sees the basin here on earth is sanctifying it, so they also sanctify it. Now that's a little bit strange. Some have the version when they see the bottom basin is not sanctifying it because they didn't sanctify it yesterday. So then it's automatic. The phrase is used in the Bavli of Shamayim. It's automatically, day 31 is automatically Rosh Chodesh. What else is going to be Rosh Chodesh if day 30 wasn't Rosh Chodesh? So there's a question here of exactly what the Girsa is. It could just mean that whatever the basin below does, the basin above, sort of backs it up. But it sounds like it's sort of saying more a specific position of why only on some days and not in others. Okay, we're almost done. So there was a story of these 24 kiryot. What is this kiryot? So then, wagons, chronos. I guess he had his whole. I guess he had his whole what do you call it? I think this. No, actually no. This is where officially we're supposed to stop. So we have 10 minutes left to do the Bali. This is for tomorrow. I knew it didn't look familiar. Okay, so there was a lot there about Kiddush HaChodesh and Ibur Shana and appointment and all these things, and also the role of the Nasi and the role of Eretz Yisrael. So we're going to do a little bit. We'll start the Bavli and we'll see how these things get paralleled.